Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a nice short break. We're back with DLRC. Welcome. Thank you for presenting today. Well, that time is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric, and good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm going to be presenting with my colleagues Alex and Molly. Both joined DLRC as new graduates about 18 months ago, and we're going to talk a little bit about consultancy work as a graduate and the kind of opportunities that it can offer. So if you'd like to go to the first slide, please, Alex, thank you. So the learning objectives today: what is a consultancy company? As a consultancy, who does DLRC employ? Attract talented individuals. What are the benefits of consultancy work from the perspective of a graduate? So honing your skills, exposure to varied work opportunities available to graduates at DLRC. Okay, here. So thank you. So what is a consultancy company? So we work supporting pharma, biotech, medtech clients. We provide specialist expertise, program management. We work on some defined projects. We sometimes are managing peaks of work. Sometimes we can work on an interim fixed period, or we may have an ongoing long-term relationship with our clients. We sometimes work on very short-term projects, and occasionally we are the regulatory department for small companies that maybe don't have their regulatory staff. Next slide. So who do we employ? So we have a wide range of experience at DLRC. So we employ people who are to regulatory and experienced scientists and people decades of experience. The chat there. We have flexible working roles. So here we do have people who work part-time, who work school hours, and obviously people who are working from home because of the pandemic, but that we had a lot of people who were working from home. And we look for individuals who will fit in with the DLRC company culture. So our vision is to offer renowned and innovative regulatory affairs solutions for the advancement of global healthcare. We want people who in that vision. And how do we attract talented individuals? So we're looking for people often with a proven track record, and we offer flexible working. We have opportunities for learning and development in the company, and we have won awards for being an Employer of the Year and also for our business, our export business. Our mission is to be the regulatory service provider of choice, so we're offering renowned and innovative strategic and operational support so that our clients revisit, and we do have a very large percentage of repeat business. We want our employees to excel, and I think you will see from talking to two people who have worked here for just 18 months how far people can really come in quite a short space of time. Obviously, we want patients to benefit, and if regulators respect us, it just makes our job for our clients so much easier. So we're always looking for quality input to any applications that are going to regulators. Next slide. So this is just a snapshot here of people who have joined DLRC as either new graduates or who have moved across from a role that is maybe associated but not regulatory affairs. And you can see from this, we have lost two people who came to us for a shorter period of time and moved on somewhere else. But we have a lot of people who've worked in DLRC for many years who joined us as new graduates and have excelled, some of them being promoted maybe 3 or 4 times. So now I'm going to hand over to Alex to take you through the next part of our presentation.
Great. So yeah, what are the benefits of consultancy work as a graduate joiner? So yeah, as I mentioned, Molly and I both joined DLRC straight out of university, roughly around 20 months ago now. I joined as a graduate in biomedical sciences. Molly joined as a chemistry graduate. in terms of why I was sort of so interested in regulatory affairs, probably quite like a lot of people, I was interested in the work that pharmaceutical companies do. I was keen to keep using that sort of scientific knowledge and background that I developed through my degree. But I also knew that I was, in terms of my personal skills, I was probably better suited to something outside of direct laboratory work, which, like I said, I think is probably the case for a lot of people that look to go into regulatory, early on in their career, after maybe 1 or 2 years after university. In terms of how I ended up working in DLRC, about 2 years ago now, I attended the Topra Careers live event. Back then it was in person. I managed to speak to Diane and a couple of other people at DLRC, and they sort of talked through why they thought consultancy was a good fit for someone like me, a graduate looking to go into regulatory. The end result was I sent my CV off. A couple of months later, got through the interview process, and yeah, got offered the job. And for me, the thing that was most important when looking for that first initial role, it was which company or role is going to best help you to develop in those sort of next 5 years, the early development stage of your career. And I think irrespective of, whatever area you're looking to go into, that is really the thing that most people are looking for when they're looking at graduate roles. So yeah, with that in mind, I've sort of put together a couple of slides just to talk through why I think consultancy work is quite a good fit for someone joining as a graduate. So firstly, the opportunity to continue honing your core skills. So a lot of people will think about, when they're looking for a graduate role, the knowledge they're going to acquire. And obviously that's very important, but something I think is probably just as important is what company is going to help you to continue developing those key skills that you should have already acquired in university or earlier life. And I think a good example for me that highlights the importance of these key skills is, if you look at the people in the most senior positions in a lot of organisations, they'll obviously all be very knowledgeable, but they'll also be the people that most effectively use these key skills. So they'll be the people that can communicate the best. They'll be the best at working in teams and leading. They'll definitely be the people that can adapt to whatever situation they're in and still work effectively. And they'll obviously be very strong in project management as well. So yeah, the knowledge you acquire is important, but the skills you can develop and continue to develop is also something to consider. So the first example I've picked out in terms of a skill that blends well with consultancy is the ability to communicate. So whatever regulatory role you end up in, you will be communicating with other regulatory colleagues, you'll be communicating with other departments, supply colleagues, commercial, legal. You'll be interacting with health authorities around the world, which obviously puts a big focus on communication. But at a consultancy, there's that additional requirement to communicate on a regular basis with clients. So on a day-to-day basis, to some extent, you will be managing a business relationship, obviously not in a super senior position, but nonetheless, I think, on a day-to-day basis, you are put in a position where that communication is especially important. And like anything, the more you're exposed to a situation where you have to put that skill to work, the more you're going to develop in it. The next skill I picked out is the ability to be adaptable. So Diane sort of briefly touched on it earlier, but consultancies, and especially DLRC, will offer support to companies with a huge variety of project areas. And what that means as a graduate is that effectively every single project you take on will be completely new and unfamiliar to you. Obviously, there's always support available if you need it or you're unsure on something, but that exposure to a wide variety of projects, it forces you to be adaptable, and it sort of forces you to become comfortable working on projects where the answer isn't immediately obvious to you. I think this might be the thing that's most important for regulatory, because if you look at or people I work with even with decades of experience, they will have new or nuanced situations where the answer isn't immediately obvious to them. So getting that experience of being adaptable at the earliest possible point is something that I think in the long term will be very valuable. And then finally, the last skill I've picked out is the ability to manage projects effectively. So I'm sure everyone listening on the call will already have some experience of project management, likely through university or other work. And at a consultancy, I think that's immediately put to work. So it's entirely conceivable that in any given day you could be managing 2 to 3 different projects, all with different clients, all having differing timelines. And because it's with different clients, it's likely you'll also be working with different project teams within DLRC. And what that means is you personally, individually need to take some responsibility for managing those projects. Obviously, as I said before, if you're too busy or you need support, then support's always available. But nonetheless, having the opportunity to take some individuality for your projects at a very early stage is something that I found really helpful. So yeah, from a knowledge perspective, clearly the biggest benefit is that exposure to a wide variety of work in quite a sort of flexible and dynamic environment. So if you do have that willingness to learn and a genuine curiosity to help out and ask questions whenever you're unsure on things, I think a consultancy puts you in a very strong position to learn as a regulatory professional. So in terms of how it would work from a day-to-day perspective, you will likely have a primary client or project that you would be assigned to, where you spend the majority of your time. But naturally that work is going to fluctuate week to week. So if you do have a quiet day or a week or month, then there's always the opportunity to help out other people on their projects where they need support. And as the months go on, what that can mean is you can gain exposure to projects across the entirety of the product lifecycle. So from very early stage development, clinical trials, all the way through to the sort of end of a product's life cycle. So the perfect example for me is primarily I work in divestments, which is for a sort of large pharma client who will have these well-established older products that they'll then look to sell on to smaller companies, normally to fund development of newer products coming through their pipeline. So that is sort of end of the product life cycle. But since starting DLRC about 20 months ago, I've had the opportunity to do non-clinical tables to support a US clinical trial application. I've had the opportunity to do publishing on clinical study reports for a new drug application. I've helped submit quite a few variations to for generic products to help with the product launch, and also done some sort of general life cycle maintenance. So submitting variations to update product information to align with recent European guidance or requirements. So that's a pretty good overview of, even in a fairly short space of time, there's been the opportunity to help out on a huge different range of projects. Yeah, and that's something I found very, very valuable. And then finally, just to add, because of the nature of how consultancy works, it's effectively made up exclusively of regulatory experts working in a number of different areas. And that can have benefits in terms of your learning outside of just the day-to-day work. So the perfect example for me at DLRC is we have lunch and learns, where on a weekly or fortnightly basis, someone who is an expert in their field will do a talk for the rest of the company on a project they're working on, or a specific regulation that they've been looking into. More often than not, it will be something that I haven't experienced before, but it's just another opportunity to sort of soak up regulatory information. So in the last year, in terms of the lunch and learns I've attended, there's been talks on implications of Brexit. There have been talks on people's experiences of different scientific advice meetings at health authorities around Europe. There's been talks on the effect of upcoming clinical trial regulations that will be coming into effect at the end of this year. So yeah, I think that gives a picture of not only the wide variety of projects that you can work on in your sort of day-to-day life, but some of the other opportunities to learn outside of the regular work you'll be doing. And that should lead on quite well to some of the other opportunities.
Thanks, Alex. So yeah, DLRC offers some great opportunities for graduates to encourage their learning and development. So in particular, new joiners can be sent onto the Topper introductory course after they've had the opportunity to find their feet in the company after working for a year. And even some of the graduates that we saw on the earlier slide, they've even been sponsored by the company to undertake the Topper Master's degree course as well. And in particular, Alex and I have recently had the privilege of joining on to the Topper Apprenticeship. So this is a 30-month work-based training program tailored to align with the work your company focuses on, or areas that they may wish to develop a bit further. I think that covers either medicines, medical devices, or ATMPs. So the program provides master level training by developing in 3 areas. So knowledge, skills and behaviours, and they're all needed to develop and accelerate your career in regulatory. So the idea is that you spend 20% of your time training and 80% of your time working and gaining experience. And this is all assessed at the end of the program to ensure that you've developed in all the right areas to the correct standard. So Alex and I are the first graduates to join the apprenticeship from DLRC. So we started this in November 2020, and DLRC even gave us the option to extend the course to obtain the Topper Masters as well. So in November we attended the first module, and this was the Topper introductory course, and this gave us a broad introduction to regulatory and created that foundation for the program to follow. And I think what I found sort of interesting trying to get to grips with was the new balance between managing your work and your learning. So yeah, time management was really tested initially, and as I'll come on to, DLRC was able to help us manage that well. And then the next module that we have upcoming is the strategic planning in regulatory, and this is in June of this year. And in between, we've also had the opportunity to do some mini courses as well. So as I mentioned, there are 2 aspects to the apprenticeship, the 20% training and the 80% on the job. And working at a consultancy really has its benefits in both of these areas. So one of the initial things we had to do at the start of the apprenticeship was to select a mentor. And this is someone within the company who will be able to provide you support throughout your course. And I think I found working at a consultancy that there's a variety of people with different experiences, and this meant that we were able to select a mentor who not only had an interest and maybe some experience in mentoring, but also someone who was a great fit for us personally as well. So someone who would be able to provide their expertise in the different knowledge, skills and behaviours, along with keeping us on track and helping us navigate the new ways of working, so supporting the development of our softer skills as well. So, as a consultancy, not only are our mentors available to share their expertise and knowledge, but the company as a whole, as DLRC really does encourage information sharing and collaboration. So, we know that everyone in the company shares this attitude. And if we were studying a certain topic for a certain module, we could easily find someone in the company who has that expertise and would be happy to support us. So at a consultancy, there are people in the organisation who help match the client work to the appropriate employee, and likewise, if we need experience in a certain area of reg during the apprenticeship, we have people experienced in linking the work up to us. And this just ensures that we are exposed to a variety of areas throughout the apprenticeship. And as DLRC recently employed a training manager, this means that there is somebody there throughout our apprenticeship and just for all employees generally dedicated to assisting with our development. So something that I found out during the first module of the apprenticeship was time management and organisation skills were really put to the test straight away. And I think this is something that is often tested within the role. But the benefit of working in a consultancy is that if the workload changes, DLRC is a company which can react to this and be flexible. So helping us find work in a quieter time on the apprenticeship, allowing us to focus more on the job side of the programme, or the complete opposite in busier times too. And this is definitely something which we experienced at the beginning of the apprenticeship during our first module, as extra help within the company was introduced to support us with our day-to-day work during that busier time. So all in all, DLRC as a consultancy has the opportunities and tools in place to successfully support our learning and development and investing in us as individuals as we move through the apprenticeship and our early time in our careers as well. Okay, so to summarise, consultancy companies, they employ a variety of individuals with different levels of experience and expertise, and these employers are exposed to a variety of areas within regulatory. And as a new graduate in the early stages of our regulatory career, the real benefit comes from the individual company, so ensuring that there is an environment which promotes knowledge sharing, flexibility and opportunities, all to support our learning and development. And from personal experience, I think this is something which DLRC is managing to demonstrate very well. So yeah, thanks everyone for your time today. I think we're now open for questions.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that great presentation. Very insightful as always. There's a couple of questions. Is there a deadline for the apprenticeship program?
Deadline, what exactly are you referring to? Is that a deadline each year to join?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is probably a question for one of your colleagues at TOPRA,
so.
Sam, Eric, but I mean, there is a deadline. I think you have to apply by September, don't you, for, don't have to apply. I think you can open to apply by September, but you guys weren't even in, no, you were, it was the following year. So it would be September time. Sorry, I'm waffling.
I was going to
Yeah,
say, I do also think they take on more than one cohort a year, so I think there's more than one opportunity each year to join if you want to.
And how you get on it, you need to be sponsored by your employer to get on it, I guess.
Yes, we'll refer to the
those
apprenticeship team.
Answered by TOPRA.
Yeah, that's fine. So the next question is, what stages are involved in the hiring process at DLRC?
So we are going to be putting out on LinkedIn very soon that for new graduates, we're looking at graduate recruitment day, June. We graduates, so if you LinkedIn, so you can follow DLRC on LinkedIn, and it will definitely be on there, so that you can see when that comes up.
Okay. So how does working in regulatory at a consultancy firm compare to working as an in-house regulatory affairs expert?
So I'm assuming when you say working in-house, you would mean working in a pharma company.
Yeah.
And so I can only talk from my experience, and it is a very long time since I worked in a pharma company. But generally in there, you will probably feel like you have more ownership of projects. And when you work in a pharma company, you have all the things that you need to do in a pharma company, as well as working on the projects. It's more likely when you're working in consultancy that you may not feel that you own the projects, although some of the projects that we have, I mean, we are very much owning those projects and working on them for sometimes many years. So I think, there isn't a clear definition between two roles, but if you're working in a pharma company, you'll only be working on the products being developed by that company or products that that company sells. So if you're working in consultancy, you can do anything, because we work for lots of different clients. So generally the number of different projects that you'd have the opportunity to work on. And if you're working in a very big pharma company, you might actually be limited. So you might only be a CMC group, might only be working on post-licensing, and therefore would only be working CMC post-licensing, for example. And because, there would be different divisions within that company.
Okay.
I think that's probably the best way to describe it. That the bigger the pharma company, the more you are in depth of work doing. Working consultancy, it could be anything, but it could be the same thing for years and years, because sometimes the projects are very stable. So you can really have to work on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Are there any further questions from anyone at this stage? There's not anything forthcoming at this moment, but if you have any other questions, please email them to me. I'll put my email address in the chat later. And the apprenticeship questions will refer to the apprenticeship team at Topra. So I suppose for now, thank you very much for your presentation and your insights. We'll move to PharmaLex. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.